So, as early as I want to say yesterday, um, some articles popped up uh, that are, LGBT community specific, and one in particular I read was on harlot.media um, by a Colette Arand, I think, and she wanted to argue. Well, let me back up first. Apparently, there has been talks of a Metroid movie, um, with the focus being on Ronda Rousey playing the main character, Samus Aran. This leads me to the article. The article mentions this, and there's several of them. And the article is basically stating that beyond a reasonable doubt, the character Samus Aran from Metroid is transgender. Now, I have no issues with the LGBT community. I really don't. What a person, an adult, decides to do with their own life and how they want to live, whatever gender they identify as, all of that is, one, none of my business, two, not my problem. And I say not my problem in that it is not something that affects me. I believe they have every right as anybody else to live their lives with the same protections as anyone else does. So I don't have any issue with the LGBT community. What I have issue with is this article. This article and several others like it claiming that absolute fact that canon to this story, Samus Aran is some sort of transgendered woman. False. False, 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 false. It's false. It's absolutely false. And it's absolutely false because this article cites specifically reference to a quote from one of the game developers, specifically Hirofumi Matsuko, who said Samus Aran was some sort of new half. This was like right when Super Metroid came out, and this was during press conferences, and this quote was actually in an article that was reviewing the guidebook for Super Metroid. Here's why none of this is any kind of useful reference or even factual. Super Metroid is not the first Metroid game, so throw that out the window. This is also not the game developer himself who is saying this. This is someone who literally gives their personal opinion on the character Samus Aran because she stands a whopping 6'3" and 198 pounds. Now, keep in mind, the game was made in Japan. How many 6'3" women are in Japan? Yeah, I can see why, this guy with this very narrow point of view would say this. But what are Wonder Woman's stats? She's just as tall. This is Amazonian height. But this does not make Samus Aran a transgendered anything. And the actual game developer himself said, this is a lie. Samus Aran is not transgender. She's a woman. And I would love to point out, Metroid came out in 1986. The first game, 1986. It was a huge milestone to be able to find out that the character at the end of the game, if you played well enough and got the best ending, is a woman. It was a lovely little Easter egg. Now, why did Nintendo not promote that Samus was a woman? Because I think they didn't want to make a big deal of the character being female for people to play the game. The game is spectacular. It's a huge franchise. It's a classic. I think it's probably one of the first strategy kind of survival horror type games all the way back on an 8-bit system. So the fact that the author of the article or blog or whatever you want to call it felt so adamant about this caused me to really be fully offended. Look, man, fully offended simply because growing up, if you were born in 1980 to about 85, you know that as video games started to really take off and graphics started getting better and better, it was hard if you were a girl to find characters you could relate to. Every game that had any females in them, usually they're the ones you're saving. Super Mario Brothers, you're always saving Princess Peach. Legend of Zelda, Link is always saving Zelda. So here comes Metroid, which came out, when all of these games are out, and your main character is a woman. It was beautiful. It was a wonderful concept to have this strong female lead, and she is the game. She is the game. So for this author to go on this rant and say that it's canon to the story, it's not. It's really not. I'm sorry. Maybe you can find another character from another game that is transgender, but I'm so sorry, it's not this game. And this seemed very much like a fishing expedition solely to prove your point that you feel Ronda Rousey isn't a good choice to play a transgendered character because she hates transgender. Well, I don't disagree with you there, but this is not the character. Sorry. It's the little things that matter. These details are so important. If you're going to write an article, I feel like you should have done your research. Which you didn't. Super Metroid isn't the first Metroid. The person who made the quote wasn't the original game designer or developer. They worked on specifically Super Metroid. So, no. Samus Aran, the queen of Nintendo, has not nor has ever been a transgender character. With that being said, could you make the character Samus Aran transgender? Probably. You could remake it and say, this is not canon, this is just a brand new version of it. Very much like how Spider-Man's been revamped, Green Lantern's been revamped, Batman, Robin, the Joker, Captain America, on and on and on. These characters have been recreated. You could recreate the character Samus Aran and make it a man. You could make transgender. You could make it an android. Doesn't really matter. But canon to the story, she is a woman. Sorry. You don't win your argument against Ronda Rousey with this one. So, yeah, no. Let us be able to have our victory in the start of video games to say that the first female character in a video game in a lead role belonged to Samus Aran, 100% female in the best pixelated way.